Welcome to Slight Reliability, the show where we learn about SRE and observability 1 week at a time. I'm your host, Stephen Townsend. Welcome back to Slight Reliability. I'm Stephen Townsend, and this is the show where we learn SRE and observability. Today, I am joined by Karanveer Anand, a technical program manager in the SRE organization for Google. He's responsible for leading large-scale programs to improve the reliability of Google's infrastructure. That's pretty exciting. He has over 8 years' experience in software reliability, and prior to joining Google, he worked as an SRE manager. Is it Nutanix? Is that how you say it?
That's correct.
Yeah, at Nutanix, where he started his career back in 2016. In addition to his professional experience, he serves on the board of advisors for San Jose State University and the University of California, Irvine. How are you today?
I'm good, excited to be here. Thank you for giving me this opportunity, Stephen.
No, thank you for reaching out, and I'm looking forward to this conversation. Today, we're talking about blameless post-mortems, which is this thing well, you can see the dogs freaking out in the background there, having massive battles.
Yeah.
uh, which is something I've talked a lot about before, but we've never had a dedicated interview or even episode about it, which is great. So I guess my first question is, what's the difference between a blameless postmortem and just a regular post-incident review? Or is there a difference?
Definitely a difference. It's more about the culture, I would say, how to make it blameless. And it's very important to make it blameless. If we don't make it a blameless, then the right action item doesn't come because we ended up pinpointing someone. And that's not a good culture for an organization as well. Blameless postmortems are usually not about any person who did the mistake or who made that code checked in. It's about the products and the processes to improve the products.
And what are the benefits of blameless postmortems? You know, how does it sort of improve a product or an organization or a team? What are the benefits?
Yeah, definitely. So the postmortem is a well documented written record of an incident, its impact and action taken to mitigate or resolve the issue. So at the end of a postmortem, we have a clear action items on how to prevent this in the next time and how can we reduce the recovery time. That's important too, because the incidents are supposed to happen, but how can we roll back fast or how can we reduce the recovery time, so we think ahead, and in the end the product gets improved. That's a really benefit of a postmortem.
Do you have any examples, even if you had to obscure or the example, a blameless postmortem and something that was learned that then was used to improve a product in some way? Not
And we
really.
recently got a worldwide issue where everyone saw it on 19th July 19th, Crowdstrike outage.
Oh yeah, that completely massively affected our organization. Yeah.
Yeah, so all sectors were impacted from airline to healthcare to financial sectors. Everyone was impacted with that outage. Why it happened? So we dig deep. I read their postmortem. They did their postmortem as well, and they say that the root cause was they did some update which rolled over to Windows operating system, and that had 21 field while the operating system expected 20 input fields. So when we had more inputs, the mismatch resulted in out of bound memory read, and that
Mm.
caused a system crash. So it was when system was crashing, all of the Windows systems started crashing, and all the applications were not working because the operating system was crashing due to out of memory leak or out of memory. It went in a loop because my application was running over the operating system
Mm.
and interacted with that to make it secure, but the fatal happened. And so once that we found the root cause, then it was important to know what things went well from that one. So they released their official postmortem on their website as well on the CrowdStrike. They realized on what went wrong and why went wrong, and it's always that's a root cause. Once the root cause was identified, like I said, then they figured it out. How do we prevent from happening again? So they need to do more testing, software resilience and testing. They need to do make sure how can we control it even after released it, or maybe do a releases in a 1%, 2%, like a staggered manner,
Mm.
so that then they get the feedback if it's going fine or not. The release deployment, they need to do more testing, more validation. So all of these things are the part of postmortem. Then they also did third party validation. Then the postmortem also included how can we do a band-aid, because a lot of things what I'm talking here is about the future long term things,
Mm.
but they need to get the trust back of the millions of customers they have worldwide. They need to get their trust back, and they made sure they wrote in a clear statement that it's not any sick hack. They were not hacked.
Mm.
They had a bug in the software. It's very important because they're a security company, and getting hacked. If a security company gets hacked, it's a big
Yeah.
deal for our customers.
It's yeah, it's quite a it must be a very unique circumstance if you're a security organization who's writing code which runs in kernel space, on an operating system which you don't own. That's a pretty unique situation, right? I wouldn't guess that many organizations are doing that and would be able to cause the kind of issue that occurred.
So to get the customer back, they're doing a third party validation to verify they were not attacked, they were not doing anything, everything is secure. All the existing customers can still use their CrowdStrike service for future,
Mm.
because they don't want to lose their customer too, right? Because when something like that outage happens, the customer trust gets impacted. That's why we say it's a reliability. Reliability is all about how the customer rely on a product. So
Mm.
it all got impacted. So all in all, in postmortem, we need to think about the short term as well as the long term, and we also need to think about how can we make a recovery faster. Like how can we roll back? Like they release their software update, and they did their first update, nothing happened. When they did second update, then things started crashing. So why did they didn't get to know before? Why did they release to 100% of the global population?
Mm.
All of these questions gets arised, and postmortem is a very fun exercise. It's a great learning opportunity for a lot of new people who join the company, join the team, because postmortem goes into the root cause and understand about the different technicalities and the different corners of a company as well, on how can you
Mm.
save it. So it's a fun exercise, only as long as we keep it blameless.
Yeah, which is easier said than done. I did have a question. I have had other guests on the show, and I've read in places as well about the idea that trying to find the root cause isn't necessarily the best approach. That there might be more than one root cause, or it might be really complicated. And that in some ways it's more important to find something that we can do tomorrow to make things better than it is about finding the root cause. What do you think about that?
I guess you're right, but I learned one thing: when you're finding the root cause, we need to keep the discussion action oriented, a
Mm.
useful mechanism to focus on root cause. And there's a one popular thing, I'm not sure everyone has read, there's a five whys thing.
Yep.
It's in the Google, it's in the Wikipedia as well. Five whys. So why did the issue happen? Let's take a simple example. My car failed. Why did the car fail? My engine failed. Why did the engine fail? So
Mm.
ask why five times on the same thing. Why did the
Hmm.
engine fail? Because the wire had a because the wire of the engine got short circuit. Why did the wire of an engine got short circuit? So ask five times why to actually going understand the root cause. That's a very good exercise to get into the devil into details, because you need to get into the weeds of a cause, right?
It's good advice. I do. The next question would be, how do you do a postmortem? Let's say there's someone out there and they're listening to this right now. They've never done a postmortem, blameless postmortem. How do they? What do they do?
Definitely. So always postmortem, you need to do some things before the postmortem and during the postmortem and after the postmortem. I divide into three phases. Before the postmortem, you need to identify the key stakeholders, who are the required people for this postmortem, because you can't invite the whole company to a postmortem. And then you need to pre-populate the incident summary and some other things in a Google Doc or some document, Microsoft Word, Google Doc, where everyone can collaborate over the document. And then share with your audience, whoever your stakeholders are, and then have a facilitator and note taker for that postmortem session. Then once you schedule the postmortem session, the first and most important thing is to create an environment of psychological safety, because you can't fix people, but you can still fix the software systems. So we are here to fix the software systems, not to fix the people. Human
Mm,
beings are bound to do mistakes, but softwares can get improved. So
mm,
let's talk about the software, not about the people. That's a baseline. So once we have an environment, let's collaborate on the document and we can start sharing the knowledge and pinpointing the root cause. After the postmortem gets conducted, the session, the 1 hour meeting or 30 minutes meeting, it gets over. We need to follow through and share the postmortem widely, like have these action items ready and then share with widely over the audience. Then build a culture of the postmortem is important. The post, like we need to conduct it regularly over the different issues as we see in the production, and keep sharing the learning. A lot of people learn from these postmortems. Even some of the interview questions are on the postmortem. What was the biggest mistake you did and how did you fix it? It's
yeah,
important to read the postmortem.
yeah. I before we chatted, I had this idea that Blameless BPM, Blameless Post-mortem, was all about the session itself, and it's an sort of in person or a big video call where everyone talks about things. But you were suggesting that not necessarily, that it can be quite an asynchronous thing, and it's more about people collaborating on a shared document. Is that right? Did I understand that?
Correct. It's a combination, what I will call it, because you can't get everyone thoughts in 30 minutes, but you need to have a
Mm,
collaborative document where everyone can reply to you, and there could be a lot of dependencies outside of your team, because when a software gets run, it has a lot of dependencies outside of a what Jeff Bezos called two pizza pie team.
mm,
Uh, so there could be a lot of dependence outside of a team, outside of your organization. So it's not easy to get everyone in 30-minute slot.
are there like templates for what their document, how it might be structured, that Google provides or anyone provides that you know about?
Yes, there's some templates. Um, for example, the one of the few things of the template is we should mention what went wrong in the issue, when did it happen, how did it happen, what was the impact. Those are the basics first, preliminary, to understand the issue.
Hmm.
When, what, how, why. W's, all W's.
Hmm.
Then once we have all the W's answered, then we come up with the lessons learned. This is where we summarize the main key takeaways for sharing with our team and sharing with other teams. First of all, things that went well. It includes an exploration of things that made the incident smoother or end more quickly, like for example, well-designed logging or a clean handoff of an incident command or effective load balancing, minimize the impact to others. Or we can have partitioning, regionalization of a
Hmm.
partitioning, like my impact was just to one sharding. Like all these things were things that went well in your postmortem. Then we come up with the things that went poor. These are the lowlights of the event, like a poor communication, tools that hampering progress in resolution. So these are the things where we need to focus to improve it next time. Then the last and the most important is where we got lucky. So this should
Hmm.
mention the things that could have gone worse if not for coincidences, time of the day, heroics, and so on. For example, shard A doesn't have got impacted but didn't have any traffic, or
Yeah.
low QPS.
Hmm.
So these are the things where we got lucky, but it's good to mention
Mm.
that we are not cutting the corners. I guess that's all pretty much. And once we have the clear action items, who is going to do work on these action items also important.
Yeah, that was what I was going to ask about. I've seen a lot of postmortems occur, and great findings are found, and actions, identified that we should do these things, and then nothing ever happens. So, I mean, the the basic answer might be, well, let's get, we need more funding and priority. But that's easier said than done. I mean, is there anything you can think of that would help make sure that the actions identified in blameless postmortems actually get followed through?
Every organization is different, but we need to Atlassian have some filters. We should track. We should have some component like a Jira component or whatever. Have some component for postmortem and track all of them with a higher priority. And the before that, when we are in the live meeting, the facilitator need to ask it who is going to own this AI.
Mm,
After we had a person nominated, only then move into the next action item. Because if we don't have a owner of the action item, then it will never get delivered. It will be always moved to as a P2 or a P3 priority forever. Then
hmm
we will still see these tickets in the backlog even 2 years down the line, and we do never know, we may hit this issue again. So it's always important to keep these issues as a higher priority and have a clear owner. I guess that's the basics. Once we have the right owner, then it's all about the tracking and follow-ups. We have can have some filters. Someone is going to follow up on that regularly and have some email reporting going to executives. These are the post issues happened in the last 1 month. These are action items. And
hmm
who is the owner it? And keep the sharing the status, because when things get shared in the public with the right accountability, people start getting the work done faster.
I like that. The public accountability
Yeah.
thing, yeah, when it's visible, you can't ignore it. I like that.
You can't, oh, my name came on the email, my director is there, my VP is there, let's do it.
Yeah. I had a chat with someone recently who said in their organization they have like fortnightly meetings with like senior leaders in the organization to talk about the incidents that have occurred over that period. But imagine having that, but also having that same audience and talking about the follow up actions and how they're going from the incidents before that. That would be pretty powerful, I think, as well, to get
Correct,
at that level, the C level.
correct.
Mm,
I guess the one point I would like to make is like executives or the organizational leadership needs to prioritize these action items as well. If they
mm,
keep uh, they need to make sure it's on their responsibility as well, because if they do follow up few times, then the organization knows that my leader cares about these action items and the postmortems and the action items, so we need to do this, because that practice is also not very consistent across the organizations.
for the in person or a video call aspect of a postmortem, I suspect you need quite a strong facilitator, someone who can, run that meeting. Have you found that? I found it's quite rare to find good facilitators in technology. And is that a valuable skill for this? And is it any hints about how to facilitate a postmortem?
No, I guess it's good to have facilitator. If you have facilitator, the discussion remains the focus.
Mm,
So otherwise, people start going over all the places and going into one direction. Let's say some issue happened, someone going into logging and keep speaking about logs for 30 minutes and start
hmm
fixing the issue in the meeting.
Yep.
So facilitator need to keep focus them on the meeting at a good level of depth, because we are not going to solve the problems in the meeting in the
hmm
post-mortem session. We are just figuring it out the problems in the right action items. We are not here to fix the problems in the session.
hmm
And the facilitator needs to say no to a few things and make sure people are respected to that person
Yep.
and listen to that person. And facilitator need to make sure some of the things can be taken care offline, because if someone is talking about the things which are out of scope for the discussion, then we need to make sure we talk about the things offline
hmm
to respect everyone's time.
I wonder, something I've seen in uh, these kinds of sessions is there are certain people who are quite happy to speak up. They're the people that are maybe a bit more outgoing and they want to have a voice. And then there are other people who may be quieter and less forthcoming with information, but they may have really good insight, which would be helpful. I guess I think a role of facilitator is also to get those people to speak and give them the space to do that, which is really hard to do. But yeah.
That's really hard to do, yeah, because it's usually facilitating. is a proactive thing. People come on their own. I can be facilitator, but one idea what could be thing useful could be we can have a rotation among the team to a facilitator so that everyone gets a chance to speak up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not only about chance, it's about the enhancing your skill set and bringing the leadership in everyone
Yeah.
to come forward and talk about what's going on in your mind. Keep it's about a leadership skill overall.
Mm-hmm.
It's a part of a soft skill, leadership skill, and a rotation would be really helpful because it's very hard to open those people. Usually, this personality does very well on asynchronous postmortem where they are collaborative on a document. They can give very good inputs and valuable insights,
Mm-hmm.
but they hesitate some people to speak in the large meetings as well.
Any tips on how to keep the post-mortem blameless? And I guess that applies to both the asynchronous written component and the session.
Definitely. So, blameless culture originated in the healthcare industries where
Oh,
mistakes can be fatal
yeah.
because these industries nurture an environment where every mistake is seen as opportunity to strengthen the system. So, when postmortem shift from blame to investigating the systematic reasons why an individual or team had incomplete or incorrect information, then the prevention plans can put in place. And like I
Mm.
said before, you can't fix people, but you can fix the systems and processes to better support people. So it's all about the leadership need to make sure there is a good safety, psychological safety, and let the people come up with the innovative solutions on how to fix these problems. And some of the things what we do to build this culture, like a postmortem of the month, start publicizing which postmortem was the best in that month. That could be one good activity. And the other one is postmortem reading clubs because, like I said, postmortem are very good source of information. A lot of people learn a lot of things. So have some postmortem reading club where you start reading the postmortems, the historical postmortem, either from your team or your sister team or some other organization, and start learning from that.
Mm-hmm.
Because the mistake done by team A, you shouldn't do the same mistake. Start learning from others. These are the good things from a reading club people do. And there's a thing called Wheel of Misfortune too.
Yeah.
So there are a few good things where which we should incorporate to build that culture.
It's a little bit not quite on topic, but I'm a new manager, and obviously with my team, I want to build that psychological safety. And something I accidentally did, I wasn't consciously trying to do it, was uh, show my own vulnerability and when I make mistakes and when I'm really struggling with things. And the team feedback has been that they appreciate seeing a leader who's being like forthright about things that are not going well and not just talking about the positives. But yeah,
That's good too. You're doing a good
yeah.
job, Stephen.
Yeah. I guess the last question really before we can, go off topic a little bit if we want to, is when do you decide to do a postmortem? Because things go wrong constantly all the time. So when is it worth doing a postmortem?
Well, that's a good question because things you may see a lot of things going wrong in organization for systems. So you can have your own template or a decision framework when do you will trigger a postmortem, but usually the postmortems gets triggered when you have a user visible downtime or degradation beyond a certain threshold
Mm,
or data loss or maybe resolution time was above some threshold you couldn't resolve the thing above. It could be internal issue but you can't resolve from 3 days, so it needs a postmortem. When you need a in-depth root cause analysis is another thing, or you have a monitoring failure which implies you can't recover something because the monitoring was failing. So it depends on organization to organization. I call it org health. It depends
mm.
on your org health, how many incidents you are having, user visible downtime. If you're not having much, then start focusing on the lower priority one, like recovery time or monitoring failures, data loss. All these things should do go for postmortem, in my opinion.
Okay, yeah, I was thinking before I asked you that it was mostly going to be about I guess, the blast radius of the incident on the organization. But yeah, you're right. It's also about where the organization is at and in areas where there might be a lack of maturity, which really need addressing as well. Like, it might not be a massive blast radius, but this is an area that if we don't deal with this, then we're going to have even bigger incidents in the
Correct.
future.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Karan, for coming on the show and chatting about postmortems, blameless postmortems. It's something I really wanted to get covered for a long time. Anything else you wanted to share, or what are your plans for the next month or two?
I'm just going to Hawaii with my wife.
Wow.
So it's a fun trip. And my message to everyone is keep the blameless culture in your organization and keep learning from other postmortems. It's for your growth, your organizational growth, everyone. Keep learning, and keep sharing.
There's something I will do, because I don't do enough of that. I need to read more postmortems. Yeah. And to everyone else, hope you have a wonderful week, and I will see you all next time.
Bye-bye.